Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of The Mindful CEO. In fact, it's episode number 46.
46.
Thank you, Dawn. There's a shout out to Dawn.
That's right.
We have name Dawn, 46, episode 46.
Our seventh listener.
We will go back in time now and add descriptions, add numbers to all of our descriptions. For those of you that really love the numbers, I totally get it. You know, it's funny. Aaron, I usually I'm like, let's just create the content. And I don't think from a listener's perspective, like how to find or navigate through all the episodes. And I really appreciated that comment.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Don, that was really useful. And so there you go.
There you go.
Episode 46. Let's go.
People, we do listen to your feedback. We do. Yeah.
And just recommendation for everyone, if you're going to go back and start at like the beginning of something, we would recommend that you go backwards, first of all, because frankly, the episodes just get better and better. And I certainly wouldn't go back to the beginning because they were terrible and they really were not related to the same kind of content. I don't know. We'll let you know next week what episode we rebranded at, but yeah, I know it's in the title, the rebranding.
Yeah, right. And side note, because we haven't mentioned this in a while, but if you wanted to send us a topic for the podcast, or you had a question that you wanted us to mumble through on the podcast, you can go to themindfulceo.com/podcast, themindfulceo.com/podcast. There's a place to actually just put in your comment or your question and hit submit. It'll come to me and Aaron, and we can totally throw that into the show and give you a shout out. So there you go.
There you go.
7 of you. Yeah. All right. You and I were talking, we have this triangle in our logo, which for me represents mission, right? The mission of a mindful CEO. Where are we going? What are we doing? But then another corner of this triangle is the mindfulness piece of it, which we've spent some time now in the conversation of mindfulness. You're still doing daily, what would you call those? Mindfulness practices.
Yep.
In the Mindful CEO Facebook group. And the third point on this triangle to me is Mastermind, like that there is something emergent that happens when we as mindful CEOs come together. There is another layer of perspective, paradigm, truth, whatever you want to call it, that is available when we come together versus when we try to do this alone. And those three points on the triangle create sort of the framework for this whole conversation. And then I think we said last week, like the middle of this triangle then as a fourth point really could be manifest, like that, where all these points converge is the secret to manifestation. So I wanted to start to have a series of talks here into exploring mission.
Yeah. And I thought that was it's one of those, no coincidences, but it was just in the ether because we were talking about it on my team today. And then Joshua Smith posted something directly to it today on his GSD feed, which is great. And I thought it was just so spot on that we wanted to dive into it and really look at the relationship to intuition, mission. Yeah. But that's where we were last week. We were sort of, we had I think the side comment or one of the tangents was that, prayer is you speaking to God and meditation is God speaking back. That the opportunity of mindfulness, of meditative practices, which are distinct from mindfulness.
Yeah, right.
The opportunity of meditation is to sit and quiet the mind and hear what the universe, God, intuition, your gut wants to say. And so first of all, we got to just get straight with that. Are we calling intuition your gut? Are those the same things? Is it the same thing as, does that resonate with you? How do you feel about that? Is that God talking to you? Is that the universe speaking? Like that, you said that today we should talk about intuition. And I had that experience and reposted Joshua Smith's thing. Is that a coincidence? Is that the universe aligning? Are all those things the same? Are we putting all those in one bucket?
Yeah. I mean, I think I feel like that's my logical brain starts to go, I'd have to, really just distinguish each of those. I feel like for the sake of this conversation and time, to me, there is an energetic ingredient here. There's a spiritual ingredient, if you want to call it that. There's something that is hard to put a finger on that is bigger than or goes beyond a to-do list. Like that this goes beyond strategy. It goes beyond logic. There's some other thing at play here.
Okay, but hang on. So this is good because I think there's something else you're collapsing that I don't have collapsed, that I don't. Okay. And collapsing is a bad word, because the wrong word for that, because it's got a negative connotation, and I don't at all have that. That's not my intention there. So what you have something in the same bucket that I don't have in that bucket. Let's put it that way. So I do have intuition and gut in the same bucket.
Yep.
And I don't, not even for the sake of time, I think for the sake of sanity, or not getting into weeds you don't need to get into. There's no reason to separate intuition from gut, from being the universe calling to you, right? Like that. Yeah. And that calling that's the thing that I wanted to really get into, because that's, you and I have that work of discovering one's calling. And that's the Joshua Smith post was a Mark Twain quote where he says there's the two most important days in a person's life. Yeah. Is the day they're born and the day they find out why.
Yes.
And gotta love Mark Twain. And that why is, first of all, let's just get into it, because that's why I'm sitting in a cathedral. So we really are mumbling. We're picking lots of different things, and we're not in any particular order here. But I'm in the cathedral because my background is a cathedral.
I'm like, wait, let me get my guitar and I'll start strumming while you mumble through this piece line.
Right. You want a wafer? The metaphor that we use for the significance of discovering your calling and the utility of discovering your calling. And we had literally had this conversation with my real estate team this morning, because prospecting is a drag unless it's the fulfillment of something. So the metaphor for the calling is simply the story of the stonemasons, where a traveler's walking down a country road, and he sees a guy with a chisel and a hammer, and he's breaking rock. He's like chiseling the rock. He's sweaty, and he's red-faced, and he's clearly angry, not having a good time.
Yep.
But like that. And the guy says, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?" The traveler says, "What are you doing?" And the guy looks at him pissed off. "What do you think I'm doing?" "Asshole, I'm breaking rocks in the hot sun. Get away from me."
Yeah.
"Sorry for bothering you, dude." Keeps walking maybe 25 yards down the road, and there's another guy, chisel, hammer, same setup. But he's got his shirt is neatly pressed. He's wearing suspenders. He's clean shaven. He looks, professional, and he's methodically working his way around the stone. And the traveler says, "What are you doing?" And the guy says, "Well, I'm a stonemason. This is my career. This is my craft. This is what I do." And the traveler says, "Thank you very much. I appreciate that." And then he goes down about another 25 yards down the road. And sure enough, there's another guy, chisel, hammer, rock, entirely the same setup. And this guy, do you ever see anyone who looks like they've got fire in their eyes? They're just flowing with magic. They're just like, their movements seem choreographed, and they're just clearly inspired by something. Something is moving them. And he says, "Excuse me, can I bother you? What are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I'm building a cathedral." And obviously the point of the metaphor is, look, if you're smiling, and this is how it was on the team. Look, if you're smiling and dialing and you don't have a cathedral you're building, you're breaking rocks.
Yeah.
Right? Prospecting is either breaking rocks or it's building a cathedral. It's up to you, or it's your craft. I mean, either way, but how you do what you do matters. Okay. In terms of your own experience of yourself, and it's entirely and 100% up to you. it is not activity based.
Right.
Right.
This
And
is
so,
where,
but that, hang on, then the piece of the cathedral, the other thing that I think people miss, and I think this is the really important piece, and this is the piece that we're talking about, is a cathedral's not built because someone likes a pretty building. Nobody builds a cathedral because they like the way it looks. They build a cathedral because they are in the presence of their life mattering, and they're going to give their life to something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
They're building it to honor something.
Yes.
Right now, it's either a sky daddy or whatever, but without denigrating sky daddies anywhere, the idea is that this building honors an idea bigger than me.
Yep.
And we call that your calling or your reason, or the reason to add, like who you are as a possibility, lots of different things in that bucket. Your vision, it includes your mission to get to that vision of fulfilling on that thing, but it's the thing your business, your cathedral is in service of, needs to be inspiring to you. The day you discover that why, cathedral, the thing that matters to you so much that you would bother building a cathedral, that's what that's the second most important day in your life. And how you get to that right now, then how does that all tie into intuition, gut, resonate? Right. I don't know.
Because to
I
me,
don't think those are the same thing. I don't think the calling is in the bucket of gut. The gut may get you to the calling, but I don't know. This is what we're exploring, because I don't have any commitment on any of this yet.
Yeah, no, that's what occurs to me is there's the question as you describe the cathedral, right? Like I'm a full-hearted yes to, there's the cathedral and this is what my life is for, and that there needs to be meaning and all that. And the question that arises when you say that is, but how do I get there? And I think the how is the intuition, the gut, because otherwise you're left with something logical. You're left with neocortex. You're left with, thinking about it, not intuition or your higher self or access to something energetic.
So you're suggesting that your why, and whatever that is, your why, your calling, your raison d'être, is accessed by one's intuition, one's gut, one's listening to God.
Sure. Heart, gut, heart. I mean, those are similar to me. Because I think, and I'm only pulling from my own experience, right? I'm not smart enough to have peer-reviewed studies on, intuition. I think what in my
we should make a note. I would love to know if there are. I bet there are.
Maybe. My experience was I had a lot of years in business, right? So we're talking mindful CEO, like business. I'm the CEO of my life. And I had a lot of years as the CEO of my life where I was reading books and getting everybody else's answer about what my cathedral should be and doing the work they said I should do. And none of it felt fulfilling for me. Like I did the work, but it just wasn't a cathedral for me. It was chiseling stone, or at best a craft. At best, I was a stonemason doing my craft. But when I started to let go of everybody else's answer, and it took me having a midlife crisis and a 9-month temper tantrum of, F this, I'm not doing this anymore, like to just let go of all the mechanisms around me and come back to myself, which I think is what mindfulness does. I think mindfulness tunes out the stuff out there and brings you back to yourself. And when I got back to me, I could start to hear. Not literally, there was no audible voice, right? But I could, there was what do you call that? I would call that intuition. There was a sense, what would be fun is, what I really feel my life is for is, and those things came from inside me, whether that was my gut, my heart, my intuition. Mm-hmm. And it was compelling and it was exciting. And it was, oh my God, this is a cathedral I want to build. Yeah,
it's good, Chris, because I was going to argue against that initially, just because, fuck you. But I was looking at the work that we do in finding your authentic voice.
Yeah.
Right. When we deliver that to people, right, about actually distinguishing your calling, in that, and you could substitute calling for vision or why or like that. The practice in there, the design of that exercise, the design of doing that work is that you look to see where in your life in the past you've been inspired. And as you examine those authentically, look at those, you begin to parse out, a theme, commonality.
Yeah.
What is it about those situations, wherever they showed up, that leaves you inspired?
Yeah.
Inspiration is breath breathed into you, inspire. And that's very deeply, and for me, connected to spirituality, connected to my connection to God, my connection to the universe, like that breath is, and breath is foundational to mindfulness. So I like that connection there. I like the connection of, when the one quiets the mind, you can hear that, and seeing that, parsing that out, getting that clear, getting that distinguished. These are the things that have always inspired me. That's how I got to agency for myself, of people have the experience of their own agency in their life. That's always been the things that have lit me up, and I don't have to defend them to myself. I don't have to defend them to anyone. And I think that's a critical piece of finding, like Mark Twain said, why you were born.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You don't have to defend. You have the experience of, I don't need to defend this.
Right.
Right. I don't have to defend, my love for my kids.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have to defend that to anybody. I don't have to justify it. I don't have to oh, well, here's why.
You don't have to fact check it.
Right. I don't have to fact check it. And I don't question myself on it.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And it's unconditional, and it's forever. And I don't spend, and no one would challenge me on it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the calling is that way. When you say it, it occurs for you like, that's who I am, because it's so deeply connected. It has been breathed into you. It inspires you. And I think you get there through I think mindfulness is an access, and an ongoing access to.
Yeah.
We can get into gut again in a minute, but I think that's the relationship between mission. Because you could say that mission is mission the plan to fulfill that vision?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. That's what's true for me.
Okay. I agree. I mean, that's why I said it. I'm not, is the plan part? Yeah. I mean, that would be mission, right? Dun, 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 dun. I always think of mission. Like
mission. Yeah.
Right? Like, I have chosen to accept this mission, and the mission I've chosen to accept is, for me, all people have the experience of agency in their life.
Yeah.
And,
right.
And then my job is to, execute on that mission. Right. And, get that done. So I think that's, in there is a whole access to, the most important day of your life being the day you discover why. Because that then gives you a mission, gives you something to operate in day to day. Here in the day to day, picking up the phone and calling is now the fulfillment of a mission. It's not breaking rocks.
Right. Yeah.
Good.
I also think there's something in here about and by the way, how you describe that to me is sort of how it happened for me. Was I had my meltdown. I returned to myself, and something began to emerge. There was a calling, a grand vision, a thing out there that I'm like, this is what my life was for. From there, the mission of it, the how would I do it? How, like, what's the direction? What's the mission impossible? Your task, should you choose to accept it, is whatever. And then from there came the, okay, that's the, how would I do that? The plan then came from the mission. So the mission came from the vision, right? Vision's out there. And then from that, I'm like, what's the mission? And then once the mission was there, then the plan became available. And I think, again, I think what's important for me in this conversation is that it's not just okay, but I think it's important that the plan is co-created with your intuition.
Yeah, good. So that's the other, good, perfect. Oh man, I love how we're so on the same page today. I hate it when we fight, Chris. Because that's what I was going to say. So then you've got, so the vision, the calling is given by those, that spiritual realm of, you know, what do you call that? Deepak Chopra has that. Oh my gosh. Joe Dispenza has it too. It's
quantum field.
Yeah, the quantum field. I think that's what Deepak Chopra has it, and certainly Dispenza has it like that too. Like you know, in the form, it's just self, right?
Yeah.
You know, you've tapped into something. We talk about being tapped in, right? And we're deep in the woo-woo woods about being tapped in, and that's the thing you're tapped into. So you're tapped into life in some way that gives you access to a calling that's true for you, that's requires no defense, requires no justification. It is who you are. It is what you say you're about. And finding that is the, you know, second most important day of your life. That's the thread. And then that gives you a purpose or a mission to fill on it. And then the planning of it. And that's, so now we're down in the sort of the weeds, and this becomes the mastermind and mindfulness, why those two are the great cornerstones of that, because you can continue to quiet down to look to see what's the next action, and then having a group conversation to parse out how to effectively take that action, using the intention of others, you know, the Napoleon Hill, stand that wherever there's two or more people having, I forget how he says it, but having a conversation to fulfill on a similar intent, a common intent, the possibilities are limitless. That is totally not the quote. Okay, that's not what he said, but it is
totally get the gist of it.
It's definitely the idea of what he said. That's the relationship that those things have. And the thing is that pre-show, you said this thing that I was going to fight you about, but masterminding with yourself. And I don't know. Do you want to defend that, or do you want to talk about that?
I don't know what your beef is with it yet. So give me your beef, and then I'll see if I want to fight.
Here's my beef with it, motherfucker. My beef with it is I don't want to collapse masterminding with collaborating with the universe. Okay. Masterminding is you with multiple people, with other people.
Sure.
That are all tapped into something creative and something magical and something that inspires them. And now you're together, people working. And then if you want to mastermind with the universe, I just think mastermind should be left to be multiple people, and the other one should be meditating or mindful like that. That's
it's all how you, it's all just where you stand and how you view it from where you stand. I can totally stand there with you and see that. I was just standing in a different place and saying,
I could go to, you can mastermind with the universe. You're welcome to mastermind with the universe. You and God and the Holy Spirit.
We're all extensions of source energy. And so we all are one, and there is no separation, but in this physical plane, we are separate individuals.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Esther Hicks masterminds with Abraham, and Abraham is a energetic mastermind. Anyway. Yeah. Good. Okay, good. That's I'm so glad we don't have to break up now. But that's the relationship that all these things have.
Right. Yes. Well, you remember that Rumi quote that was like, that which you're seeking is seeking you?
I don't, but I love it.
Just, I mean, there's the whole, like, you think about like cathedral building and a vision, a mission, like there is this on the other side of that veil, or in some multiverse, there, like, that which you are intending, that which you desire already is on the other side of that veil. And there's this trying to find each other, this magnet coming together,
Yeah, well, that's that's definitely what Esther Hicks would say, is that you're the moment you want it, the universe produces it for you, and then it's a question of you matching your vibration to the thing you just asked for.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think that's a lot of what we could be doing together. Well, I definitely have that. See, I was gonna say I have the experience of doing that with you in these podcasts.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's right. I don't think that's the experience I have with you about this. Just of matching vibrations, to having asked for something. All right, so it is in some way, right? So it's not, this is good. This is why the middle is manifesting. Oh my God, it all came together. It's so good. But that's, you've got your mission, you've got your vision of what you're up to and the mission to fulfill on it, and you're mindfully connecting to the whatever you need to, so that you are guided in the next set of actions, and you're working with people in a committed, creative, some other C conversation, there's the other C, to fulfill on that. And that you would, from the Abraham's perspective, you're matching the vibration of what you want. You're raising your your job is to match the vibration of that which you want, but yet don't yet have. And you do that by sitting in the experience of having it. You actually have the vibration of the thing, and then the thing shows up, right?
Yeah.
And I think if we're, in our work together, Chris, you and I have been matching vibrate. Like today was a example of matching vibrationally. You brought up intuition, gut, and I had that experience with, Joshua Smith's post. And literally today on the team, I did this whole thing with Cathedral, literally this morning on the huddle. And we were supposed to do it yesterday, but we were busy. So today was the day that it got done. And I've been shouting from the rooftops about this conversation with various podcast hosts, because I really feel like this, especially now for realtors in my field, the people with the market shifting the way it is, and the massive radical upheaval that there's going to be in that entire field. But for anybody, right, inside the tumultuous times we live, tumultuous times we live, damn. There's a opportunity to slow down, get your calling, be empowered in what you're up to, and fulfill something that matters to you, versus chasing or breaking rocks in the hot sun. I mean, there's this enormous, so I have this, I'm called to get that word out there, that you could, in fact, put your attention on that thing that's bigger than the cathedral.
Yeah. Right.
That would have it be worth building a cathedral, because I think people miss that part. And I think, our work together, Chris, it's massively useful for me to suss that out.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be where I was today if I wasn't engaged in a conversation to suss it out. That's why we have the Mastermind group starting, exactly, to move that along for people who want to, engage in it at more than an observer level, which the podcast is an observational level. And then you take on whatever you want to take on about it. But if you wanted to get a little more get actually hands-on and apply it and be in a mastermind group, that was the purpose of that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of there's what else there is to explore about this. It sort of feels like a natural wrap.
It does. Yeah, I think it does. I think it does feel like a natural wrap. I think in future conversations around mission,
We're
it'll be
just checking in with our guts about that, by the way. That's what that looks like.
I was checking in with my intuition, not my gut.
Oh, not your gut.
Okay. My heart. It was about my heart. My
I was
heart
looking at my
space.
left shoulder, and in my left shoulder twitches, but I'm done. But there you go.
My heart space says I'm complete about it.
That resonates with me, Chris.
I love it. Oh, that's good. Well, I look forward to future conversations about mission, because I definitely think there's some. I think we live in a culture that does mission a particular way.
Yeah.
And I think it will be fun to explore how do you do mission in a mindful way, and I think that'll be a fun way to do it.
Oh, that's good, Chris. Right? Because that's good, because we do mission in a particular way. We do a whole nother riff, but that should be next week's riff.
And we'll rip on that riff on that next week. All right, man. Thank you. Those of you listening, if you want to learn more about the community, the mastermind, you can go to themindfulceo.com/invite. There's an application button there, and we will see your application and follow up with next steps. Thanks, Aaron. Peace.